Imagine this. You're 19, you're from a peasant family, you can't read or write, and you have no military experience. Okay, now given that, now imagine yourself leading an army to victory, nonetheless, where you are captured, placed on trial for over 70 charges, none of which you committed, only to be burned at the stake. That's crazy, right? Well, I researched this topic over multiple sources, and I would like to discuss Joan of Arc's life before, during, and after the war and the impact she left on France. Well, Joan d'Arc, translated to Joan of Arc in English, endured all these events before she was even 20 years old. According to History.com, she was born in 1412 in northeastern France. She grew up with a love for the Catholic Church and all of its teachings. And at 13, she began to hear voices from God in which she had claimed to then that she was the one who would save France and rightfully crown Charles VII as king. France was at war with England, known today as the 100-Year War, in which England was gaining the upper hand. So in May of 1428, at the age of 16, Joan traveled to Vaucouleurs, a local center for those loyal to Charles, where she was initially rejected by the garrison commander. But she returned in January the following year and predicted a military reversal in the Battle of Rouvray that earned the commander's trust. Next, she was granted an escort to Chinon, the home of the royal court, though it required passage through hostile Burgundian territory, an ally of the English. So she was dressed as a male soldier to protect her, but this would actually be one of the 70 charges she was on trial for later. She arrived in the royal court safely and met in a private conference with Charles, where she earned his trust, promising that he would be crowned king. Joan asked for an army to lead to Orleans, who was under English control. Charles agreed, despite that most of his counselors and generals did not think he should listen to a 16-year-old peasant girl, illiterate, and who had no military experience. I don't know why. In May of 1429, Joan set off with her army, called the Armagnacs, to Orleans, where they were met by the English in order to stop their advance. However, the English turned back after the very first cavalry charge. The Armagnacs then captured an English fortress, in which that battle Joan was struck in the shoulder with a bow and arrow. But she returned the following day and encouraged the final assault to take the fortress. On the third day, the English retreated from Orleans and the siege was over. Because Joan ended the siege, she gained trust of prominent clergymen and was able to persuade Charles to allow her to march into other battles and reclaim those cities. All of them were successful. In 1429, Charles was finally crowned king of France, and peace followed the coronation. However, it was quickly disrupted by yet another English and Burgundian siege. As she defended against this siege, she was captured by Burgundian troops and held for a ransom of 10,000 gold coins. She was under trial for over 70 charges, including heresy, witchcraft, and dressing like a man. This was in order to discredit both herself and the king. So in response to that, King Charles did not negotiate for her release in fear of being discredited. According to biography.com, Joan was held in a military prison between January and March of 1431, where she was interrogated repeatedly by a tribunal. Joan claimed her innocence despite all the guards' threats of rape and torture, just trying to get her to confess to a crime so they could finally kill her. Frustrated they could not break her, however, in May of 1431, they used her own protection against her and found her guilty of dressing like a man. And the following day, at the age of 19, Joan was taken to the old marketplace and ruined and burned at the stake. As stated by Sparknotes, the English attempts to discredit Joan and ensure that she didn't die a martyr failed. She became even more increasingly popular after her death. 20 years later, King Charles VII ordered a new trial called the nullification trial that found her innocent. It actually brought in multiple character witnesses and found that she was not a witch and that she was not guilty of heresy. She was then declared a martyr and became a symbol of the Catholic Church in France. She inspired numerous works of art and literature, including one by Shakespeare. Ultimately, Joan became a mythic stature in France because of the role she played in the 100-Year War and the strength she showed before and during and after the war, and the strength she showed when she was on trial. She remained true to her character, and so she actually, when she was on trial, she actually escaped from the prison, and she dropped down for like 150 drop, and that was one of her charges was a suicide attempt. So, but Joan d'Arc may have died a witch, but today she lives as a saint. Thank you.